Have you ever thought that there must be more to life than this? Ever thought about doing something completely different? Starting your own venture, quitting your job and travelling around the world? Do you fear that you're having a midlife crisis? My name is Brendan, and today we're going to talk about, am I having a midlife crisis? So, a midlife crisis was coined by a Canadian called Elliot Jaques, and it all refers to those thoughts where you just think, is there more to life than this? As we sit here now, the chances are you've probably seen on Instagram or other social media feeds people doing wonderful things. Now let's put to the side the fact that Instagram and Facebook and all those other social media feeds, it's not real life. Nobody ever puts out on there that they're just having a really shit day. But as we grow older, we have those thoughts and feelings around, have we achieved what we wanted to achieve? Is there more to life than what we've got at the moment? Especially as I turn 40 at the end of next month, am I reaching half my life? Scary thought. Now, midlife crises often result in doing things that you wouldn't expect people of a certain age to do. The one that comes to mind are the mammals, the middle-aged men in Lycra. Now, I'm a little bit hypocritical because I've been wandering around in Lycra for many years. Yes, I do quite like it. Please don't hold that against me or tell anybody. But the midlife crisis is something that I think we all struggle with, or we all consider at some point in our lives. What's my take on it? Well, I don't think I'm having a midlife crisis because I've already had one. I'd refer to the phrase a quarter-life crisis because that's really where my midlife crisis started. Back in 2012, I was deeply unhappy in a job that I'd been in about a year. It just wasn't the right fit for me. And with that, I became deeply unhappy. Now, there's a phrase that stuck with me for a long time that says if life outside of work is being made unhappy by life at work, something needs to change. Now, it's easy to sit here and say, if you're not happy, you've got to make a change, but it's true. It's easier said than done, but fundamentally you have two choices. You either do something about it and something will change, and you don't do anything about it and nothing will change. Those are the two options that you have. So going back to 2012, I was there, I was in a job, I really wasn't very happy, didn't feel like myself, and I knew that this was basically the wrong choice. So what did I do? In the space of 3 weeks, I quit my job, I started a new business, and I bought a sports car. So what did I do? In the space of 3 weeks, I quit the job. I built out a bit of a plan of what I was going to do, but in essence, I quit a job to start a business. And I bought one of these. Well, obviously not this one exactly, because that would be ridiculous, but I bought a sports car. Those are the three stereotypical things to indicate that you're having a midlife crisis. Okay, so I'm not suggesting that you quit your jobs, start businesses and buy sports cars straight away, because that might not necessarily be the right thing to do, but I knew that I needed to make a change. I knew for me it also had to be a big change. Do you ever have that feeling just inside where things are building up, just going, I know that I need to do something about it, but I'm not quite sure what it is? So there it was. In the space of 3 weeks, I probably ticked every single one of the midlife crisis box. It was funny talking to people because when they were asking what I was going to do, and I talked about taking some time out and starting my own business, a great number of people said, I'd love to do what you're doing. I mean, fundamentally, it's easy. You just quit with no job to go to, but I wouldn't encourage that in the slightest. What I would say is that not being afraid of staying where you are just broadens your mind. It just gives you that understanding that there is more to life out there. Please don't get me wrong, and please don't think I'm being flippant, because I know that if you have mortgage payments or you have responsibilities and you have financial commitments, it's not as easy as that. But what I am saying is that by saying yes and making a change, something will happen. Good, bad, or indifferent, something will change. By saying no, nothing's going to change. You're just going to be sat there doing the same things on the same days, month after month, year after year. The choice is up to you. I do fully appreciate that there are definitely parameters that you need to operate in. Please don't sit there, get old and grumpy, and not do anything about it. Most importantly, what did I learn? The simple answer to that is If you do say yes, something will change, as I've just alluded to. That was the most important thing that I took away, because you can change the trajectory that you're on. Back in 1999-2000, I went out to South Africa and taught in a prep school before university, and I saw on a billboard an advert, I forget for which bank it was, but it said, if there's no path, create your own. Now, it's easy to sit here and get all philosophical about it, but fundamentally, you need to own your own outcomes. You need to build the path that you're on. So what did I learn? I learned that by saying yes, something would change. As I sit here and talk to you now, there is absolutely no way that I would have ended up where I am without making that big change. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to make a big change as well, but just bear it in mind. So what happens if you do feel like you are having a midlife crisis? What does it feel like? Are you just not excited about going to work anymore? Have you achieved success, but you don't feel like it? Are you unenthused by what's happening? Do you feel like you're on a hamster wheel, just doing the same things over and over again? Do you feel like there's more to life than this? The answers are, there may well be. But in just the same way that social media only presents the best that's out there, please don't think that the grass is always greener on the other side. I have my opinions, but it's important that what you do is right for you. So if you feel like you are having a midlife crisis and you want to know what to do about it, this is what I would suggest. Determine what's important to you. Is it a particular outcome? Is it your values? Is it enjoyment? Is it the work-life balance? The modern world has been thrown into chaos by COVID, and with it, it's changed our working practices. Gone are the days of being in the office 5 days a week, 9 to 5. We're now 100% from home. Is that where we're going to end up? I don't think so. But what is it that's important to you? Having that time at home now means that you might spend more time with loved ones, with your children, better work-life balance, being able to do things that are more important to you. Those are the things that will determine what you do if you feel like you're having a midlife crisis. So what are the actions you can take? First, reconfirm or confirm, if you haven't done so already, what your goals are. Make them smart, but make sure that you write them down. Because it's easy just to get caught up and drift through life, thinking we're working in the right direction, but in actual fact, we're just being taken on the tide that which we've just followed. That's not ideal by any stretch. Once you've determined your goals, and it will take some time, write down what your what could go wrongs are. Your what could go wrongs are a great way of being able to mentally understand what you need to do, but also let go of the stuff that you can't control. If you write down a list of everything that could go wrong when you were to change your job, for example, or you were to change direction from your midlife crisis, what are the things that could go wrong? Can you control them in another column? Yes or no? Those that you can control, what's the mitigant to be able to address that control? Let's say I'm going to go for a bike ride. Not that that would necessarily influence whether I'm having a midlife crisis, but if I'm going for a bike ride, it's going to rain. Okay, can I control it? No. But what I can control is the clothes that I wear. So I make sure that I've got a wet weather jacket. Okay, for those that I can't control, like is it going to rain, you just let it go. So in a midlife crisis scenario, can you control the choices that you make around the decisions that you take for your career? Yes. Okay, if that's yes, what can you do about it? Okay, so you can speak to people, you can research new opportunities, you can retrain, you could study, you could do all of these things. But you need to break it down to understand those things that you can control and those things that you can't. We can't control everything. Sad fact of life. But those that we can't control, just let go. Easier said than done again, I know, but just let them go. Then you are left with a distinct list of those things that you need to take action on. From the back of this, the next thing you should do is research. Explore your options. If somebody gave you 3 months paid leave, what would you do? What are the options? Would you go to the British Library and research a business venture? Would you do some charitable work? Would you stay at home and look after your children? What are the options? I often hear people say, oh, I'd love to change career. Okay, cool. What would you do? Good question. Hadn't thought about that. Well, please don't quit without having thought about that. The optimum position is to build up a side hustle or a venture that ultimately tips the balance in favour of what that does over what you're doing at the moment, so that you can transition. But having a plan or an idea means that you give yourself the best possible chance of improving what you do should you change direction. Next stage, seek counsel. Counsel of somebody's opinion that you trust. Could be a friend, a colleague, a relative, whoever it might be. But don't think about this alone. If you have financial and personal responsibilities, please, please, please talk to your other half. There is nothing worse than springing something big on your other half and they are just completely overwhelmed or not prepared for it. Talk it through. Are you unhappy in what you're doing? Can your other half help share the burden with what's going on so that you can take some time out? It's teamwork. It takes two. If you don't have another half, just make sure that you take counsel from somebody's opinion that you trust. Please reach out to somebody. I cannot overemphasize how important it was for me to talk through my options before making that change. And finally, take action. Do something. I would rather look back and think, cool, yeah, you know what? That probably wasn't such a good idea, than think, shit, I wish I had. I know it's easy, and I know once you get caught up in certainly the corporate life and you get used to a paycheck and you get used to certain things, it's hard. But is it worth not trying? I'm an accountant and I come at things from a data perspective, and often try and be objective around these things. Is you need to work out the pros and cons of doing so. Look at it in a very objective way and then decide what are you going to do. What I learned back in 2012 is by saying yes, something would change. But that change made me the most content I have ever been. It just gave me time. It gave me time to research and understand and look at what became important to me. Now, I wouldn't be sat here now without having gone through that change. And yes, it was scary at the time, but in actual fact, it was also bloody brilliant. I was very fortunate and I had a few quid in the bank so I could do it. But ultimately, the money ran out and I had to do something different. So don't go into these things naively. Having a midlife crisis is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you keep it bottled up and you start mulling these things over and you start talking yourselves into a downward spiral and just think, life doesn't get any better than this. It can do. So here and now, how do I feel about my quarter life crisis? I wouldn't be in a role and a job that I love doing if I hadn't made that change. There is absolutely no way that the course that I was on would have ended up in where I am today, which is doing a position and a role that I love, if I hadn't made that big scary leap. Simple fact. I knew that by changing direction and taking control, it meant that I would be back in control of what my career was doing. The time out gave me contentment. It gave me the chance to learn and research and understand and see what was going on. That change led to a course of events that leads me to where I am now. And without it, I wouldn't be here. Well, I would be here, but I wouldn't be in the role that I'm doing at the moment. I learned a lot about myself. In fact, I learned a lot which I wish I'd known probably 15, 20 years ago. Not only from a values perspective, but also just how the world works. The world is ever changing. The old traditional career route, I think, is dead. I don't think it's applicable anymore. The younger generations coming through who often get a really bad rep, they want a better work-life balance. They will probably change jobs more often than we will. They will want a work style as well as a lifestyle. Why shouldn't we aspire to that? Please don't get me wrong. I love dreaming and I love having an idea and an objective where I'm trying to get to. But we've also got to be fully appreciative that you need to be content and you need to be happy in what you do. And if it gives you the chance to be able to make that change, perhaps having a midlife crisis isn't a bad thing. If it helps you understand what you might want to do, or in actual fact just close a door to make you realise that that option isn't viable, that's also a good thing. But I think my takeaway is, don't keep it to yourself. If you need help, talk to somebody. These actions will definitely help you understand what's going on. And if all else fails, go and buy some Lycra and ride a bike, especially when you get older. So that's it. That's my story. Am I having a midlife crisis? I don't think so. I've already had it. But if you are having a midlife crisis, please, please, please think about going through these actions of understanding what your goals are, work out what could go wrong, seek counsel, research, take action, and talk to somebody. So with that, please make sure that you push the like button and click subscribe. The notification piece is really important because it just means that you get the notification that new content has been released the moment it is. And with that, I will see you soon because I'm going to go and put on some lycra and cycle around the park. See you soon.